Well, the big question with the internet is, what is the business model? And it started out, when we first started getting reasonable ways of streaming and doing downloads of video. Because when video, in the beginning, when you'd see video on the internet, those old South Park pilots that would get, it was terrible. It jumped around. The quality was awful. It wasn't until about '02 or so that we really start getting some reasonable ways of getting video going, and that was the year that I think AOL, Time Warner started putting their video on. CBS tried some things with that inner tube right around that area. YouTube would come a year or two after that, and the problem was they didn't know what the business model was. At first, CBS came up with the idea that you could watch CSI that played the night before for 99 cents. It was going to be kind of the iTunes model, where you would pay a reasonably cheap price. They thought that it was a price point low enough that people would do it. That didn't work too well. So it seems like the model that's going to work is the content will be provided free, and you will be forced to watch a commercial that you can't zip through. And that's how Hulu is working. That's how most of the network suppliers of their programming are working as well. And in some ways, that's actually a godsend, because the TiVo, the DVR device, has made it possible to record these programs and zip through the commercials. If people are watching it ultimately on the internet, there's still the technology that keeps you from doing that. Whether that'll be overridden or not, who knows? But, well, probably it will be. But at this point, you're actually guaranteed to see those commercials. But nevertheless, it's a different kind of structure. They're shorter. They come in a different sort of way. But that seems to be the model that's coming up. The business model on most internet video and most internet content in general, if you look at the big picture, is the business model of let's not make any money. I mean, I would say probably of the zillion internet sites out there, a zillion minus 100 are not making any money. Bloggers, for the most part, are not making money. A lot of these places are being subsidized by their other orientations. So it's still unclear exactly how this is going to work. As for the content changing, the rule of thumb is, of course, that internet content has got to be shorter. Because if you're home, you're watching on your TV, and then you can watch longer kind of things. But if you're watching on the internet, you're probably waiting for your car to get fixed, in a doctor's office, sitting in a bus, in one of my classes during my lectures, watching the thing. And you can't do big, complex, long things. A half hour is too long. Anybody who's a regular troller of YouTube knows that even 4 or 5 minutes is really hard to sit through. Even if you're watching pictures of beautiful people naked, it's amazing on YouTube how, after 90 seconds, unless they are really beautiful and doing really exotic things, it's like, what's the next naked person I can find who's going to be doing something better? So the idea is that now I think our general viewing aesthetic on the internet is really short kinds of things, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and you think a lot of these viral videos are 90 seconds and below. On the other hand, I'm not sure that's the kind of thing that's ultimately going to make money on the internet. I think in the end, probably some relatively traditional forms are going to prevail. The Office is one of the few things making money on the internet. Good old-fashioned half-hour, or without the ads, 24-minute comedy. Things like Lost and those shows make money when people watch them afterwards, which are standard hour-longs. My guess is we'll start seeing a lot of these little modular kinds of things. But the problem is, if the business model is you're selling advertisement, which looks like it may be what happens, opposed to subscriptions or whatever, we'll have to see. But if it turns out that for all the newness of the internet, it's the old advertising model, the problem with little 90-second things is it's not enough to get an audience paying attention to sell that much advertising. The great thing about an hour on TV was that you had 14 minutes of advertising you could sell within that hour. And if you had a hit like a Lost or a Desperate Housewives or Going Back, Dallas, or whatever, you had people's attention to sell a lot of time. If you're doing little 90-minute bursts, or 90-second, I'm sorry, little 90-second bursts a day, you've got one chance to get a little ad in the beginning or the end, but it's a much more difficult kind of situation. Not to mention the fact that an awful lot of people who are looking at how advertising is working on the internet are finding really grim results, that this isn't, they have not yet figured out quite how advertising is going to work on the internet.